Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today, we have another set of 3 crazy revenge stories for you. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. The traffic tickets became the least of his problems. A few years back, my old car was on its last legs. My mechanic said it wouldn't last much longer, and the best thing to do was sell it cheap and move on before it gave out and was ready to be scrapped. I loved that little car, but I put it up on Craigslist for $500 and got a bite. The guy buying it was in his 20s with a pregnant wife, and his dad was footing the bill. I was clear with them that it was sold as is, and I couldn't make any promises about its longevity. The buyer said that if it lasted 6 months, he'd be happy with the purchase, so he signed the bill of sale and handed over the title. I immediately went to the DMV website and registered it as a sale and assumed he would finish the process by transferring the title. Turns out I was wrong about 2 things. The car lasted much longer than 6 months, and he didn't bother to pay the $77 to transfer the title. I discovered this when I received a photo radar ticket for running a red light. I was confused because the street was way across town in an area that I rarely visit. When I went online to view the high-res traffic cam photos, I found it was the buyer in my old car, but my name was still attached to the plates. After some serious cursing, I copied all the records, dates, bill of sale, etc., and mailed copies off to the courthouse. It was his citation, but I had to prove it to the court. 2 weeks later, I get another letter from the fuzz, another ticket, this time for speeding. Same driver, same car, same plates with my name still attached. Again, I had to copy all the paperwork, write a long letter to the clerk, and mail it off to the courthouse. The third ticket really made me mad. I started making calls and discovered that this scam is pretty common. Some folks buy a junker and rack up fines until they wreck or abandon the car, and their name was never on it, so nobody bothers to punish them for it. It's all on the previous owner to clean up the mess and prove who was at fault. This time, I wrote an extra long letter to the court clerk and did a little research to include the guy's picture, home address, and listed phone number. A few months went by, I thought it was over. Hell, the car should have given out by now anyway. Then the 4th ticket arrived, showing him in high-res, zipping past a radar cam in my old car, with my old bumper sticker still on the back, Giant Meteor 2016, and all his kids piled into the back seat. The 5th and 6th tickets felt like Groundhog's Day. I didn't even bother to put the paperwork away. I kept it out on my desk, ready to copy. By the time the 7th ticket arrived, we were well over a year beyond the sale, and enough was enough. This wasn't just some dude forgetting to do some paperwork or not knowing the right way to go about buying a car. This was intentional, and it was time for some pro-revenge. First, I called the police. After a week of back and forth, finally spoke with a traffic cop who said enough is enough, and went to pay the guy a visit. He said he couldn't disclose what would happen during that discussion, but the total amount of the likely unpaid traffic tickets was enough to get his attention. The tickets and late fees were several times the value of the car. That wasn't enough. Just having to pay his tickets wasn't appropriate for the 7 freaking times I had to copy that damn bill of sale for the court clerk, so I started going back through my records of every ticket and every photo and found an interesting theme. In every photo, his tiny kids were in the car, including the newborn infant, all packed into the back seat. I called Child Protective Services anonymously. I didn't provide any information that was not 100% factual and verifiable. The ticket showed that this guy was operating an identity fraud scheme out of his home, essentially stealing my identity and who knows how many others. His children were present throughout. Furthermore, he regularly violated traffic rules and put his children in serious danger by speeding, running red lights, and committing other traffic violations. If he was doing this stuff so often in front of a big white camera, how often do you think he was driving when he wasn't being watched? I declined to provide my name or number as I had nothing more to offer and didn't want to be involved in the case any further. I gave them all the evidence. I had 3 small children in repeated dangerous and illegal situations, all of which were verifiable by photo evidence and court documents. After that, I stopped getting traffic tickets from him. Maybe the car finally gave out. And our next story. Refused to give me my money? I refuse to let you make any. I owned a sign company. I received a phone call from someone at a local mall. He was opening a restaurant in the food court. The catch was he wanted to be open in 2 weeks for Black Friday, the busiest shopping day of the year. I met with him and mall management at the same time so that we could discuss ideas and get approval at the same time to speed up production. Got everything okayed from his big overhead backlit menu sign, smaller signs on both walls, and signs for both registers. All in all, it was going to be a pretty large order. I typically get a 50% deposit, but the customer said something about international money transfers, and the mall management jumped right in to explain that payments were taking a couple of weeks to process, but everything they'd charged him had been paid. Because I'd been doing a lot of work in the mall and I was trying to help them get this guy open, I agreed to do it without the deposit. I did layouts, he approved them. I showed him samples, he approved them. I got everything finished and installed the Tuesday before he needed them. That's when things went downhill fast. He immediately started complaining that the material was wrong, even though he'd seen samples, and it wasn't what he wanted. Then he complained that the graphics were wrong, even though he'd approved them. He complained that the prices were wrong, even though they all matched the menu he provided. Wednesday afternoon, I called him again and his wife answered. She cheerfully told me that I could take down my damn signs. They weren't paying for them. They had ordered signs cheaper from someone else, but they couldn't get them ready in time, and as soon as the other signs were ready, mine were going in the trash. So realizing that I'd screwed myself by doing the job without a deposit, I hung everything on her little side comment that I could take down my damn signs. Thursday, I had a delightful Thanksgiving lunch with my family. We watched football, laughed, enjoyed the day. I took my wife and kids home, loaded up the ladder, and joyfully went to the mall. I'd done enough after-hours work at the mall that I knew there'd be a door open somewhere and people in the large stores getting ready for the Black Friday crowds. I went in, tossed my ladder over the restaurant counter, and started taking down the signs. A couple of merchants in the mall asked me if the place was already closing. I told them the story, and the next thing I know, they're trying to help me take down the signs. In 30 minutes, the place went from looking like a fully opened, ready-to-rock restaurant to looking closed. I went home and slept like a baby. When I turned on my phone at 7:30 on Black Friday, I already had 15 missed phone calls from the restaurant owner, his wife, and the mall management. I called the mall management and they weren't happy. I told them the whole story. They still weren't happy with me, but they understood. I waited 15 minutes before the restaurant owner called, screaming in the phone, demanding that I return with the signs. I politely told him that I needed the full amount plus the cost of reinstallation plus an extra $50 for working on an off day. He screamed at me. I hung up. He called back once more, demanding that I bring them back and he would pay me the next week. I said no, I needed cash. He screamed at me again. I hung up. I avoided the mall because screw Black Friday, but from what I hear, it was comical. His entire backlit sign was nothing but lit up bulbs. He'd handwritten a menu on an old box and taped it to the front counter. Every restaurant in the food court was slammed all day, and nobody would even take his free samples. He closed mid-afternoon after realizing nobody was going to buy. He went through the entire shopping weekend with no signs and no business. The best part was that 2 weeks later, when his new signs from India finally arrived, they were the wrong size. Screw you, Mr. Restaurant Owner, for ordering signs from me that you knew you weren't going to pay for because you'd already ordered them from someone else. And our last story. About that time off? No. It's that time of year for shift changes because the holidays are approaching and everyone wants time off. I have seniority on holidays, but all my family is in town and I don't have kids, so I don't mind trading. The last 8 years, I've traded the day after Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and New Year's Eve when asked. Plus, I'm usually on call because other coworkers leave town. One employee, who I'll call Jerkface, is usually the one I trade with as he goes out of town with his kids to the grandparents' house 8 hours away. Recently, a promotion opportunity came up, and Jerkface and I both applied. I got the job. Jerkface has been bad-mouthing me behind my back, saying I didn't really deserve the job and must have flirted my way to the position, when in reality, he wasn't qualified, doesn't have any of the industry certs needed, and has dropped the ball on so many projects he wasn't even in the running. I get it, you're jealous, Jerkface. Whatever. I'm happy enough to ignore his rumor-mongering. Yesterday, our secretary started putting up these shift trades, and I noticed Jerkface had traded with me for Thanksgiving and Christmas without asking. I told the secretary there must be some sort of mistake because I didn't authorize a trade and was planning to take those days off. She called Jerkface from his office, and he said he always gets those days off, so I must be joking. I said I was not. Jerkface told me I didn't deserve my time off as much as he does because family time is more important to him. So my husband, parents, sister, brother-in-law, and nieces are not important to me? Game on. So, I went to talk with the boss man. Jerkface was being a jerk, saying how I always switched with him because I don't care about the holidays, nor do I need them. So we should make this switch permanent. I said I don't mind covering for people, but I've covered for the last 8 years and was looking forward to a break. The boss man reiterated that by my generosity only, Jerkface has had all holidays he wanted off for all of his 5 years of employment, and that I was due my turn this year. It was also pointed out that Jerkface has never been on call during the holidays, so this year would have been his turn for fairness. Boss man smiled at me, said to enjoy my well-deserved time off, asked Jerkface to stay behind, and had me close the door on my way out. Point, set, match. Hey guys, thank you for watching the video all the way to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.